I'm trying to get hyped about. Can you guys hear my background?
No. Okay. Sure. I'm coming through clearly, correct?
Yep.
I have no background noise, right? Am I good?
Nah, you're good. You are.
Like sometimes we hear you clicking, clacking, man.
Somebody got a fan on.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Drama Free Gaming. It is what it says, and it says what it is. We got a full house tonight, and I'm hyped. So we're going to get all the niceties out of the way. If you're here for the first time on the channel on youtube.com/Drama Free Gaming, we welcome you. Hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. Don't miss out. We're here almost every week around this time, and we're just gamers talking games about a hobby, a passion that we have that just, quite frankly, keeps us sane, I want to say. It's helped a bunch of us through some difficult times, and so it's just something we have in common. Hopefully, you guys can catch us live here or catch us also on anchor.fm/DFG podcast. And yes, that podcast is distributed to other services. So go check us out. Google Cast, Pocket Cast, etc., etc. We are probably out there, and we're out there because you guys make it possible. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing one by one. We have a special guest tonight. And as you can see by the title already set out there, tonight is all about that JRPG RPG talk. So let me introduce, first and foremost, my brother from another mother. Jay, talk to these people. What's going on?
Welcome everyone back to another show. Sorry I wasn't with y'all last week. Obviously I wasn't missed. These brothers didn't give me no kind of love, but it's all good though.
Oh man, we RIP'd you, man. We buried you and everything. We had a funeral and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, you buried me, huh? Okay.
Yeah, RIP.
These dudes gave me a tombstone.
Yeah,
but pass it over to the next over the couch. You over there with me.
Nice. Well, let's pass it on to Henyo. What's up, Henyo? Talk to these people.
All right, what's up, man? Over here, I got less and less space on this virtual couch here, but welcome you all tonight, and welcome aboard.
Yeah. You were stretched out last week on the virtual couch, and this week, you know, them cheeks is hanging off the edge there.
I can't even put a bowl of cheese doodles between my legs here.
Nah, man, nah. Tonight, I think you and I are going to be the ones who are going to be sitting back and enjoying the conversation. I have to do this right, so I'm going to slow it down here for a moment. You see, we have on the panel with us tonight our special guest, and not just a guest. I'm going to introduce Almost Sleek. And before I let him have some words, I don't use the almost. I just call him Sleek. And Dusty's, who's already in the chat, always calls him Sleek Baby. So
Hey,
he's
hold on
probably
now.
the only one to call him Sleek Baby. What's that?
How many names this brother got? This dude is like Bigfoot out here. He's making his legendary appearance for somebody caught him on camera. That's what it is.
Hey, listen, Sleek. I mean, to be honest, I just gotta set this up. So Sleek is not a stranger. Number one, he's Sleek has been with me, and to be honest, I'm gonna let him talk about it. But all the way back since 2017, when I first started on Mixer, when I first built my computer, decided to jump on the streaming scene, started Drama Free Gaming. And Sleek is one of the pioneers. He just, not only did he just show up, but this brother out of like nowhere, he was like, I'm a mod for you. And he jumped in there, and he's done so much more for me than just be a moderator. He's been a cheerleader. He's just been a brother. He's just a good guy. And the thing is, I've yet to meet this man face to face. I consider him family. He's my brother, just like Jay. I just saw Jay face to face a couple months ago. I've seen Dusty. I gotta make a trip out there and meet up with Sleek, and you know, we gotta chat because the guy has a big heart. All he does is give and serve. He's always constantly brainstorming and working on a project, and that's what I love about him. To be honest, he just gives. There's just no take with him. He just gives, and he puts 100% into everything. So, Sleek, the floor is yours. Welcome, baby. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Look at this, brother. He's just like so smooth.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold. Dude, you got this presidential king welcome. I always get this peasant thing, and this brother like, hey. Man, you better say it with your chest, please.
He's smooth. He's smooth. I told you. I told you guys.
I'm a soft-spoken fellow.
That's good.
No,
Dusty's already jumping on you, Sleek. He's in the chat. And again, if you guys want to chat through Discord, jump on DFG Family, the channel there, and it's going to show up live here on the stream, or you can chat using YouTube. But Dusty's already on you. He's like, only thing is, he's from Boston. That's coming from a New Yorker. What you got to say about that?
Oh, there we go.
I mean, I have nothing but love for Dusty, so I'll save it for, off air.
Oh, there you go. Look at this guy.
That brother hit you with the, I'm going to school you later, young boy.
Sleek is squeaky. He's squeaky clean. I'm telling you, man. He's a good guy.
I am.
Butter on the buns, baby. Look at Javi talking about butter on the buns. I don't know what you mean about that butter on what buns, but
hey, man, you better watch what buns you can. We don't do man buns. Yeah, we take that elsewhere.
Keep it G, people. Keep it G. Oh man. So guys, I'm gonna be 100, and Sleek and Jay, you guys are just gonna run with this. But JRPGs, let me ask you, Sleek, how did this love, this passion begin for you? Where did it all start?
So, the very first RPG I played that really got my attention, and with the story, the graphics, what else? Well, we'll just say it was Super Nintendo, right? So Final Fantasy series.
Oh, brother, I love you. Oh, yes.
Yep. So
Praise be.
Final Fantasy 6 is what it is called in Japan, but here in the States it was Final Fantasy 3. But that game is what got me to just fall in love completely with anything that has to revolve around RPGs.
Wow, so Final Fantasy, like I hear a lot of podcasts and gamers, and whenever Final Fantasy is brought up, it's always brought up in a light that's like, it seems unique and special, and a game that's just caused a lot of people to be drawn into the genre. What was it about the game?
Well, do you know why? I can give you the honest reason if you want.
I mean, go ahead, give us your opinion, Jay. It might be different from Sleek.
But okay, well, in my opinion, Final Fantasy was the game that not only saved JRPGs back on the NES days, but it saved Square as well. So as one of those, when Final Fantasy 1 dropped on the NES, it was a whole different experience for everyone. Not only did Square become a name in itself just with that one game, it blew up JRPGs for what we see today.
Wow, and when you talk about Square, you talk about Square or Square Enix?
So Square, yeah. So Square Square Enix used to be Square.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They went through. They were actually Square Soft, but they would use just Square. And now, as everyone knows today, any game that they release it's branded as Square Enix, but same
Absolutely.
company.
Well, can you name some of the different games that both companies produced?
So we got SquareSoft. We have Secret of Mana.
Oh, my brother.
Secret of Mana. I played
yeah,
that.
Yep. You have let's see,
Come on.
Chrono Trigger,
One of the greatest RPGs known to man today.
Xenogears, Chrono Cross,
Yes.
Vagrant Story.
Now, most of the games my man just named, most of them are on PS1. Ladies
Yep.
and gentlemen, that's when Square was like absolutely killing it. Square and
Yep.
Atlas.
Yes, they did, and they did for Super NES. They had a real gem. I'll always remember it as well because I also love this game, but Super Mario RPG.
Oh yeah, you know. Did you ever play Front Mission on SNES?
I was never a fan of Front Mission.
Oh man, you gotta get down on it sometime though. Don't also you can't forget Ogre Tactics because that was Japan, but it was still there.
Yep, Ogre Tactics is a beautiful game. Let's see what else they got. Another PlayStation game, Final Fantasy Tactics. They're huge with the Sony consoles, right?
Yeah, but
So Nintendo and Sony are where you'll see a majority of Square release their games.
well, yeah, until when Enix do you remember when Square pretty much almost went out of business though? Which is how you connect Square and Enix. Do you know the backstory behind that?
All I know is Square at one point, what was it, like 17 years ago? It became defunct.
Okay. So does anybody here remember the movie Final Fantasy Spirits Within?
Oh yeah.
I remember the movie, never saw it.
Well, that was a Square thing, and they put a lot of money into it, and it crashed, and it almost put Square out of business. So Enix stepped in and was like, "Hey, since we pretty much on the same level, we're going to buy you, but we're going to put your name first since your game sold just slightly better than ours." Now, and let's not forget, Enix has their own great set of RPGs. If you guys don't know, the Valkyrie Profile series is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
Grandia as well, if no one's ever played it.
I got all of them.
See,
So let me. I'm gonna jump in here. So what's the attraction? I mean, I think of RPGs and you guys school me on this. You got RPGs, role playing games. Then you got JRPGs, right? Japanese role playing games.
Yeah.
We're talking about two different beasts here, right? Because it's a cultural thing between those two definitions of role playing games, right?
I'll let you take this one, Sleep.
Oh. Personally, I don't know. So a lot of RPGs you think of now would be like Dark Souls would be considered a role-playing game.
Right.
Fallout series, Witcher, Elder
Mm-hmm.
Scrolls. I mean, I, they both are like fictional settings, right? I mean,
Right.
you're essentially doing the same things, but if you, in my opinion, the difference would be JRPGs have a specific art style
Mm-hmm.
that they stick to, where they're not all the same, but they the same family or fall under the same umbrella. As to
How
where
so?
a, a majority of RPGs now, uh, they're they're a little more beefed up on like here, right? So this is just my opinion, and this is what I like to believe as well, that like I said, JRPGs stick to that specific formula, but you don't see it as much because of the power consoles have now. But there's a lot of people out there who want to see that old, not I don't want to say old, but that particular taste of games to come back, right? So I've been playing lately solo games, but it's all the older games, right? So I've been playing, like I said, Final Fantasy VII, not the remaster, but just Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy Tactics. Um, I actually just ordered through Amazon Valkyrie Profile for the DS.
Mm.
Oh,
Um,
that game's a beast.
So
yeah, so
we talking about, and I want to kind of set something up for you guys. We're talking here. Sleek is talking about actually buying physical games. He's not getting digital games. All right. So he's buying physical. He mentioned the beginning of the conversation, Super Nintendo. Was that like your era? Is that like when you came into gaming?
so I have two older brothers, and a lot of my cousins are older. So I've been I mean, obviously, I'm a young fellow, so um, I was around for Nintendo, but obviously very super young.
Okay.
So I didn't really get into gaming until the SNES.
To the SNES or the
Um,
SNES. Yeah.
yeah, and the first game I beat was Zelda.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, and then of course, like my brothers being older and being into video games, and my cousins, I was introduced to playing those uh consoles before then, right? So you got the NES, the
Mm-hmm.
ColecoVision, Commodore, uh, uh, Sega Master,
Yeah, that's
I
so.
think was before.
Sega Master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so interesting. It's interesting to hear you, Sleek, that where you started and then getting exposed and going back to the roots and then where you're at even today. What I'm curious, and you guys could jump in here as well. What I'm curious about is I see the allure. Actually, I've talked about playing Fantasy Star. Fantasy Star was probably the last RPG that I went through, and I still have fond memories of it. But that time was different because you bought a game, and that was your game, and quite frankly, we had no life. There was no kids, no wife, no job, no nothing. So you can pump some serious gameplay hours, and looking back, you see some of these games are 40, 50, 60 hours long.
Yep.
What keeps you still in this genre? And I know I'm not going to go into your private life, but being an adult now and with responsibility stuff, what keeps you passionate about playing RPGs?
So I'll say this too, like I'm a big fan of anime, and the crazy thing is that it branches off. It all started because of video games, right? Um, the stories are so good on a majority of these games that you can get lost into it for hours because you're just like so involved, right, with the character. And some of the games have a number of characters, and there's multiple stories for each character. So it's not like you're just let's see what. So for an example, The Witcher. I mean, that's a great game, but you know you have like the side quests and different things can happen and different choices or and whatnot, but you just have the story of the main guy, right?
Right.
You play a game like I'll say Final Fantasy VI, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the story of each of those characters, and like as it goes along, you see how they eventually tie in together.
Okay.
So, and the setup and the backstory for each character, the story goes someplace. It doesn't have. I'm not gonna say this particular game, but there's not multiple endings, right? There's only one.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, it keeps me like I want to get this game beat, right? And the story it's like you're reading a book, except
Mm.
you you just hear the music, right? The music in these games are obviously phenomenal, like
Mm.
the soundtracks for all these games. Um, and they have a lot of the same composers, so you know the soundtracks are going to be great. Um, the visuals, again, story obviously, and just the amount of effort at that point to see, um, the amount of time they put in for like the different types of weapons and skills.
Mm.
Even then, right? So now you're just newer JRPGs or RPGs. You just see how beautiful, like they do a specific attack or a skill or cast some type of magic. You gotta think they've been doing that forever,
Right.
and and it's crazy. Like back then, it's like wow. Imagine what it would look like today, and you get to see both sides of it.
Right.
But I'll always say like this. It's crazy what they were doing before. It was ahead of their time, right? They just didn't have the technology to make it, you know, 4K or seeing things 60 frames per second, 1080.
Right. Or 3D for
Um,
I mean, 3D like in the sense where you have all these textures and ray
well,
tracing and
that's
all this other stuff now, right?
that's the thing. They were using like formulas to combining them, right? So they were doing like 2D environments with 3D maps or
Right.
isometric, and
Mm-hmm.
they were making it work with such little. I don't want to say little technology, obviously, because they created these great games, but not the technology wasn't advanced.
Right.
They were just starting to like break into it and trying different things, and obviously these formulas improved over time. They said, "Hey, we did it this way. Nowadays, let's try to do it this way. We make it better." So
So
I
you
just
I got
think
a question.
like
Yeah,
a
go
lot of
ahead,
talent.
Daniel. Jump in.
And I grew up with a little bit of RPG. I started out with Fantasy Star 2, and then
Yeah,
what was it, Final Fantasy 7, and
yeah.
Baldur's Gate, and from there, Diablo, and so forth. Um, Compared to the storylines back then to now, um, do you still see like, is there still like a counterweight to like storyline versus graphics? Has it balanced out? Were they able to bring over the storyline and improve on the graphics? Do you feel any imbalance from what you played in the past? Like in the past, it was very heavy storyline, but not enough graphics and gameplay. Versus now, you got the good graphics and you probably got decent gameplay. Does the storyline really, hold and balance out things?
All right. So I think that for some reason, newer RPGs now compared to before, um, the s- the stories now aren't
You got this, brother.
focused on as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like, hey, let's do all this, like you said, like the graphics, like there is an imbalance. Nowadays the graphics are unreal and everything else, but if you really sit and play, like the stories aren't
That's
that
engaging.
yeah, it's they're not as long,
That's a shame.
I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So they're like shortened. So, I mean, back then that's what they were working with.
Right.
Yeah.
They had to rely on that storyline because
Yeah.
graphically, you know, it was just, you know, what they had. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
piggyback on that and say, do you think that that's the compromise now, where everything is about the resolution, the frame rate, and whereas before, like you're saying, especially with RPGs, and again, we're including our ARPGs in here as well, or JRPGs as well. What they had to really lock in and engage you with is that story, and how much imagination goes into playing these games, you would say.
Can I get in on the
Um,
conversation?
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Jay.
Okay. So, Sleep, you make great points. I definitely got to say that. But overall, in my honest opinion, you guys, the first thing that makes a JRPG is the story. When you sit down and you play these games, it is legitly like, don't even put your mind in reality. You're taking your mind somewhere else. You become engrossed in the character, engrossed in the story. And as new characters come in, you want to know what's going on with them. What do they have to hide or bring? And it just keeps expanding until the end. And usually when you dig into these games and you figure out every nuance and you find the correct path, you get this final ending where even you're like, really? Did they really have to add all this just to give me this ending?
Mhm.
As sexy as it is. Why?
Yeah, Javi makes a comment in the chat. I want to include the chat as they're commenting as well, but he had said a little whiles ago that, yeah, when you guys mentioned the movie, that movie bombed hard.
Hell
And
yeah.
he also made the comment that his stepdaughter has all the Final Fantasy original games. That's amazing. He always said Square always felt their tech was superior. That was the promise with the movie. They got his money. So
Oh yeah. Oh, they took all that. They took that L.
yeah.
They took hard.
Yeah, but this is interesting because, and I bring up the scenario or the question, and you guys to comment on it about how much does imagination play into playing RPGs, because I'm talking about my RPG experience. I'm gonna tell you, wasn't even video games; it was Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I played. We're talking about, get the graph paper out, get the dice, the DM, build your character sheets, and it was strictly all imagination. So playing an RPG, a video game RPG, and I'm talking about now, I'm sure there has to be an element in order for you to get engrossed and get attached to these characters and stuff. There's this imagination that has to be in play.
You have to become one with that character, the main
Yeah.
character. You
Amen.
basically
Oh,
have to be.
yeah.
You have to be. I'll use Final Fantasy VII because that's known everywhere. But Cloud, right? You got to put yourself in Cloud shoes. So
Mm.
once you
Yeah.
get it involved and you start progressing through the story and seeing where it came from and how it came to be and all the stuff that happened to him and how it led up to. I don't want to give any spoilers just in case people haven't played the game, which I don't know, but from our conversation earlier, I don't know if you have end time, but I don't want to spoil anything, but you
No,
know
I
what I
got
mean.
you. Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
You got to
So-
be that main character and act as if you're making those decisions or people's lives are in your hands, basically.
Okay. Hey,
You
Sleep.
got to die. Yep.
Did you play Final Fantasy Tactics on PlayStation?
Oh, of course I have. I have 2 copies of it.
Okay.
Physical.
So in time,
Yes.
to break this down to where you would understand, are you a man of chess?
Yes, I love chess.
So you'd like tactical RPGs.
So you
I don't know about that.
Hold on.
I played some tactical RPGs.
Just
I should
Just
say
hear,
tactical
just hear
games,
me
but
out.
I don't know.
Just hear,
I'm gonna hear you out. All right.
just hear me out. So, so, so you like chess? And you just said you like Dungeons and Dragons, correct?
Yes, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons back. That was a long time ago.
What I want you to do is why I mentioned it to Sleek. I want you to go play Final Fantasy Tactics.
Mm.
It is like playing chess, Dungeons and Dragons, and Final Fantasy all at the exact same time.
Hmm.
You get to choose your classes of what you want to be. The characters move like chess pieces, depending on what class you are, depends on how far you can move, and you in a story of back in the medieval times where it's just going down in the kingdom.
Sounds
It is
interesting.
Final Fantasy Tactics is probably one of the best story played RPGs I've ever played in my life. It is that deep.
Mm.
And I think in Final Fantasy VII, they allowed you to change the character names at the very least, right? I mean, you couldn't
Yes.
change the character type, but you could change the character name, right?
Yes.
So, well, I think what if I recall doing that was just naming it after all my friends, to kind of to immerse myself into the gameplay, right? Because I mean, back then, there wasn't no super, typing your character. You just could basically change your name, and you could enhance the characters and stuff like that. So, that's how I engaged with these games, by relating them to people that were around me, and thus, giving them their names. I followed suit like that with a lot of, RPG games that I played, in which I kind of incorporated my friends into it just by giving them a name or their character type. Like I would, beat on the first floor. I would always give, the biggest character on the screen. It would go to him. He would just end up being the big brute.
He the big boy.
And that's how you kind of get yourself engaged into these characters and the game, and sort of the storyline of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
and I'm digging at that because the reason is because there's games and Sleek mentioned something that I just want to like kind of comment on, but even games like now, like I just started playing Dark Souls 3. Okay, I've had it in the backlog for the longest time, and when I mean that I just started playing, is like actually now I'm approaching the game the way it's supposed to be approached, which is an RPG. I didn't know that. When I picked up Dark Souls, I thought this is a hack and slash, go through, survive, rinse, wash, repeat. And man, I was getting smashed, like to the point where I was like, I'm not playing this game. And I put it away, I put it down. But I heard someone recently talk about the game now with Demon Souls being remastered and on the PlayStation 5 and, getting all this praise and well deserved. Blue Point did an amazing job. It's not their first game that they've been on. But went back to Dark Souls 3 and I'm enjoying the game. I'm like, yeah, this is an RPG. It has, the class. It has the the leveling up and you having to equip your items and the encumbrance of your characters. And my question to you guys is, how deep does an RPG have to be for you to engage, or can it just be something very light and very superficial? Where are you at with that?
So, for me personally, Dark might agree with some of it, might disagree, which is cool. So I can't wait to hear what he has to say. But what you were just saying, there's like, all right, so role playing, right? RPG, you're role playing essentially, right? So you have, which is awesome as well, as you have multiple um, types of RPGs, right? So you got your action RPGs, you have your massive multiplayer, you have your roguelikes, your tacticals, sandboxes, JRPGs, first person party, monster tamer. Like it's such a robust and big uh like category, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
RPG, like everything. RPG is the top of the umbrella, right? And everything underneath it is just it, it's just so robust. There's just so much. And to answer your question, it's like what for me, it's being able to change your classes. So
Mm.
Dark brought up Final Fantasy Tactics, and he's right. That's hands down one of the best RPGs ever, a tactical one at that, because of everything he said. But you change your classes. You can be a thief, you can be a mage, you can be a chemist, you can be uh, what else we got? Dark
Uh,
engineer, knight, a
ninja,
squire. Yep,
elementist,
yep, and,
samurai,
yep,
archer.
yep. And the cool thing is with with Final Fantasy Tactics is the longer you play, it's your characters are permadeath if you lose them
Wow.
in a battle. You have three turns to bring them back before they disappear completely.
Mm.
But the thing is, you don't have to recruit multiple characters, right? So you could have like just 10 that your main guys, and as they progress with the chemist class or the squire class or whatnot, you level those jobs up and you unlock more jobs. Then you're getting into the skills of each, so you can mix and match your character to be with ninja skills and black magic, right? So then, which is a good combo,
Oh
in
God,
my opinion. So, like that, stuff like that, and the amount of weapons in that game, I should say, customization, I'm big in too. So, just seeing your character visually change and the weapons, you'll see them briefly, but they also changed. And to me, that's like what an RPG is. Like if I get a sword, I want it to be different from an iron sword and a broadsword. I want to be able to see the difference.
Mm.
Yeah. So Dark can follow up with that, but
man, y'all, look, man. Overall, if you like RPGs, you like chess, you like D&D, you want to get down on something different, please play Final Fantasy Tactics. It will draw you in. It is the most frustrating, funnest, most confusing, most satisfying thing you'll ever play. Trust me. All in those words.
Well, and how about let me flip that on its head, and I'm gonna take a couple of these comments first from the chat. I got Javi here with a bunch of chats, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, guys. Hit that like, leave a comment. You want to do that, and if you haven't subscribed, do that. Share this with your mom, dad, sister, brother, niece, nephews, neighbors, and your worst enemy. It's all right. It's all good. It's drama free. But Javi says in the chat, he says, loving Gears Tactics right now. He's all about that turn-based. He played Shining Force like 10 times on the
Yeah,
Sega Genesis.
Shining Force. Yes,
You remember
and
Shining Force, right?
I made Hoppy a wizard all the time. Put it on the record.
He says, true, Peño. I still name my characters after you guys. So yeah, that's something that I did in RPGs, and I also did that like whenever it was customizable on any other game. If I can name them after somebody I knew, it kind of helped me like to engage and care for the character, but it also reminded me like, oh, okay, this character's skill is this because I related to the person. Like you were saying about Pito. Pito was a barbarian, right? So he's the big dude. So I'm like, okay, I know this is what he does. Javi has a quote here. It says, don't back out on me now. Don't back out on me now that I finally believe I love you. Oh, it's warm. Funniest and best quote from Final Fantasy movie.
Oh my God, I remember that. Oh, you man, why?
Man, I can't even comment on that.
Man, that don't bring that blasphemy into this paper.
So I said I was gonna flip the question here on you guys. So we talked about the depth of an RPG, and you guys definitely are like enthusiasts, passionate about it. But what about for I'm gonna put myself, I haven't played an RPG in the longest time. Yeah, Dark Souls, if you want to count that. But what if I want ground level, something current and something old school? What would you point me to that it's not going to like scare me? It's not going to make me sit there and try to figure out 12 different systems. What games do you recommend?
Persona 5 Royale.
Persona 5 Royale. What do you guys say about that, Sleek?
I honestly I was never a Persona fan.
Oh, see, Sleek, I hate you. I hate you.
Nah, you said you loved him more in the beginning.
I know, but I hate it. Persona's my favorite series out here.
Dusty saying Zelda.
It's
Zelda would be a point that he would jump into.
so
Old school Zelda.
That was rough.
You know what? You know what series I like, and I played. Actually, I finished. What was it? Was it which one was? I think number 3. Ease or Wise, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah,
Ease. Yep.
yeah.
But I finished one of the E's. I forget which one it is. 'Cause there's so many of them now. But I did go through Ease, and I enjoyed that type of game. Now, is that a role playing game?
Yeah, it's an action role playing game.
Action role playing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, for me now, it's the RPGs I mostly play are, like I said, they're all older. The only ones now I play are like Monster Hunter World, but that's obviously a group.
Mm.
We need, where you at, Sleek? I need help with Alatreon. Where you at, though?
I haven't. I have Pops help me out because I fell off and then I went back in and I was like, oh my god, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I still have to beat what's going on. But that's an action role playing game, right? So
Right.
I've been playing mostly that for new. But if you were to play an RPG, I would recommend a game called Suikoden.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which one and what system?
Okay, so the original Suikoden for PS.
Oh,
the
God.
best is Suikoden 2, hands down.
Oh,
Mm.
oh, gee, the 100. I think it's 101 stars. Oh man,
Yeah.
oh, y'all don't know
One
nothing
of the-
about Suikoden, boy. Oh, y'all.
Yeah, one of the best. I think hands down the best. One of the best.
Mm.
Suikoden 1 and 2 obviously follow each other, but then after that it takes bits and pieces from the first two, but nothing like those are the two that follow one another, and they're the best, and they're for PlayStation.
So sell it to me. What's the premise of Suikoden?
So basically, we talking the first or the second one? Because
The first one. Talk to me from the first one. And Javi says in the chat, and I'm going to interrupt. He says, I remember Ease. You beat it on Saturn. I did beat it on Saturn? Okay. Wow. These people be remembering stuff that I do, that I don't remember.
Before we move on, I want to plug in. There were JRPGs on the Saturn, by the way. If you guys ever get a chance to play games like Dragon Force, there was another game, Albert's Odyssey. Don't sleep on the Saturn. They had their RPGs. I know. I played them. I owned them.
Yeah, so according to my brother Javi, he says I beat Ease, and it was on the Sega Saturn.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Don't sleep on the Sega Dreamcast either.
I got my Dreamcast.
Some nice RPGs.
Yeah. So going back to Suikoden, he's selling me on it. What's the premise of it so that, if I want to be drawn into it?
Okay. So basically, Suikoden is... The purpose is you're basically recruiting as many characters as you possibly can. There's 108, but it will be... I think it has a few bonus characters, right? So almost 112. I want to say around that ballpark.
113, if you get the special route and special characters.
Yeah, which can be very... So my first playthrough of that, I did without any help. So I obviously didn't hit as many guys. I think I got about 80 something. Because there's certain points you won't be able to get a specific character afterwards, or you may miss a point that was important to get them, or you're not a high enough level, you just forget to go back. But it's basically about political struggles, right? So it's how his father, you're basically a general's son. And you start to see things differently. And where the politics come in is your father's a general for a specific army. I think it's the Scarlet Moon, I believe it's called, Empire. And they just start to have a real power trip, right? So then you have a revolt. and you, being the general son, you end up becoming the leader of that revolt.
Mm.
You are fighting back against everything you were basically taught, everything you grew up on, um, because you realize that it's a corrupt empire, right?
Okay.
So you're trying to bring peace to the war-torn land, and it's like a help me out, Dark Dad. It's like a what's a good struggle of like a revolution?
I mean, if you want to go kind of a struggle revolution, think the French Revolution.
Yeah,
Think the people, the people overturning the government kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So you actually in these games it's really great too because every character you find or come across that ends up joining you, you find a base, and base building becomes involved. Not so much of customizing how you want it to look,
Okay.
because like I said, it's an older one. It wasn't there yet, but every time a specific person joins you, a part of your base grows,
Okay. So it's not like
or
some
your castle
Fallout
grows.
4 where you're like moving things around and whatnot.
No, that was not. I don't even think that was thought of at that point.
Mm.
Might
Okay,
have
okay.
been,
Let me
but
help. Let me help you build here, Sleek.
yeah, help me out.
To piece it a little bit more together, you're a guy. You're destined by the heavens to bring together the 108 stars. That is your destiny.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So you're in a war-torn country. Everybody hate everybody. You start a resistance. A whole bunch of cats want to join you. You're
That
like, all right, cool,
sounds like the
cool.
times we live in.
Correct.
I don't know if I want to play a
Correct.
game about that.
so,
I'm
but,
living.
but the way it works is, as much as you are trying to do the right thing, like you're trying to be like, yo, what we want is peace for the kingdom, period. So, and only the way to save everybody is we start this revolution, and people from both sides jump on you like, yo, like some people you gotta smack in the mouth a couple of times
Okay.
because you're like, hey, get off the kingdom.
That's how
Nah,
Jay fixes things. He just smacks him in the mouth.
I mean, that's what you got to do though. But
I know what character in my next role playing game to name you. So just saying.
Sleek is right though. It's Suikoden is, if once you get drawn into the story, because the story in Suikoden is, it is so deep, and not to mention, you guys, the gameplay mechanics. He ain't even got into that yet.
Mm. It just seems like these the way you guys talk about RPGs and these older RPGs, and I'm glad that I have Hobby in the chat because he's like, you remember Legends of Mana? Like I play Legends of Mana and I beat Legends of Mana as well. He like reminds me of stuff that I forget. But yeah, but you guys are so right. Like these stories are so engaging. These characters are so engaging. And I don't think that I've found anything like now that has engaged me like that. I think the last game that I actually picked up on the Switch, and I know you guys played it, and I must have put like 40 hours into this game, is Octopath Traveler.
Yep.
That game is just, it's beautiful to play. When I popped it in, it just brought all that nostalgia back. And it was the last old school game that really engaged me, and I was like, I just want to play this game. And I forgot why like I put it down, but the game just kept me enthralled. Like I didn't want to play anything else. Is there something like that you guys have played recently or have played more than once? If you had to pick maybe out of two or three, what games have captured your heart like that you're like, you can go back to that game?
Suikoden.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that because you're recommending something that's like near and dear. I gotta go check it out. So
Yeah,
I'm writing that down. I have to check that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. Check out some videos on it. It's very good. It's very, very good. It's well
okay.
written. Like it's good. And Octopath Traveler, I've played it. I loved a lot of it, but that is, it's very deep. Like the stories for
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
characters, I mean, they're so long.
Yeah.
I almost, I could probably go back to it, but it kind of felt dragged out. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
those
agree with
stories
you,
are very
Sleep.
long.
I agree. Like, that's what captured me. Like, if I go back to Octopath right now, it's been over like 2 years that I think I haven't played that game. I think that game is 2 years old already. But I would have to start all over again. But I know what I'll like be getting into because, like you said, each character is developed within the
Yeah.
game. And then they go through like their own transformation as well in the game, so they don't just remain the character that you start with. You can actually alter their class, and it's
Hmm.
just it's so dope. Like, there's just
It is awesome. Yep.
yeah, it's a great game. And graphically, I was really like taken back that on the Switch they can pull something off like that. It's gorgeous in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just for me when what made me fall off. Like I said, unfortunately, was the stories for each character were so deep and
Yeah.
so long. Like, you have backstories of characters, but each one of these characters, I mean, the story was each alone right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
a book for each of them, and I was like, whoa. And
Yeah.
they have a good amount of characters in that game,
Yeah, and
so that's
and
where I kind
and
of fell
and
off.
even the battles, like when you would get into battles with like some major characters and whatnot, you could be on like a battle for like a good 45 minutes and whatnot and get
Hmm.
killed, and then you got to go all over again.
Oh,
Yep.
I
You
don't
know,
want to talk games like that.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
That
but
hurts my
but the appeal is there for a game to do something like that. And it's like Monster Hunter. Like, my brother stopped playing Monster Hunter for that reason, because he was like, are you serious? We've been fighting this monster for like an hour and I got stomped. I'm not going back. Like, he had no patience for it. But for
Uh,
me, in the right setting with the right game, it engages me. Like, that's what has engaged me with Dark Souls this time around, understanding that there is a loop there, understanding that there's a mechanic that you have to respect, understanding that it is an RPG, understanding that you have to learn character patterns and behaviors, and figure this stuff out. The dying doesn't bother me as much. It just makes me like want to like jump in there again and go, okay, I got you. You did that this time. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Javi in the chat is asking any of you guys, whether it's Jay or Sleek, how do you spell the name of the game that you guys were mentioning and recommending?
Suikoden.
Suikoden?
It looks like it's Suikoden, but it's pronounced Suikoden.
So it's
Sweet.
Suidoken.
Nope.
Oh,
Suikodn.
uh-huh. Kodn. And I'm putting that in the chat
Yep.
for you guys, so you guys can check that
Yo.
out if you get an opportunity. Fallout 4 and New Vegas do it for me. That's what Javi says. Fallout 4 and New Vegas.
I will say this too. If you're a fan of Octopath, I actually did a Kickstarter. I don't do many Kickstarters, but there's a game called Eiyuden Chronicle,
Okay.
and it's going to
Oh,
be the spiritual successor of the Suikoden series.
Mm.
A lot of the team who worked on Suikoden from Konami
Okay.
left and created their own studio, and they went on Kickstarter, and they were asking for, I believe they were asking for 500,000, and they got about 5 million,
Wow.
because that's what I mean. Like, you can't sleep on Suikoden. It had such a fan base that I mean, I didn't even know until they announced this, and that they're gonna bring everything that people loved about that game into this and more.
Wow.
Right now, the graphics they're showing are the towns and the base that you're building is in the graphics of Octopath,
Okay.
and your character is an isometric. I don't want to say 16-bit, but it's around there.
Okay.
But it's beautiful. Like, I can send you a link later, and you can share that later on too. But
Oh yeah,
it's called
definitely.
Ayuden. But yeah, they're made up of vets from Konami, because Konami was like, you know what? They're crazy about everything they do. They were like, let's not do another Suikoden, and they didn't realize, like, look at the amount of money they just, like, people kickstarted this game 5 million just about.
Wow, 5 million.
I it's crazy, but it looks beautiful, and they showed off a scene of Jay. I don't know if you saw it, but they showed some of the skills and magic you can do, and the team formations, which Jay will be familiar with because it's literally pulling the six person battle system from Suikoden,
Mm.
which I liked, where you have long
Wait,
range in the back.
so that means they're going off the Suikoden 1, Suikoden 2 system,
Yes,
where you got to have your basically your heavy attackers up front and your long rangers and gunners in the back.
that's what it's looking like. They have a really good. I can shoot you a message later, and anyone else who wants one,
Oh yeah,
if they haven't seen any of it. But like, I have all the Kickstarter stuff where, and I'm in the Discord
Yeah.
where they show everything, and the stuff they're adding, the amount of characters, and they're really staying true to it, which is what's getting me really excited for. Because
Yeah. If you want to
I'm telling
throw
you,
that link on in the Discord, and guys, I'll put a link in the YouTube chat as well. But you can put that in the 24/7 365 gaming, where you usually post a bunch of your other stuff there on the Discord channel, and pin it so people can look for it pinned as well, because that sounds intriguing. That really sounds intriguing, to be
it's
honest.
it, and what they're showing so far, I mean, it's like really beautiful to look at too. It's I just I couldn't believe when I saw it, because I was always looking like, are they gonna bring Suikoden 6? Are
Mm,
they gonna do it? Because I have, like, I mean, you know me, I have all the physicals.
right.
I've beaten uh all the Suikodens. 4 and 5 they were all right, but
1 and 2,
4,
baby, 1 and 2. That's all you
yeah,
need.
yeah,
2.
one and 2 will always be the best. I actually did like the DS version, or was it 3D? It was DS, 3DS, one of those two.
Mm.
But yeah, I'll get it and I'll pin it, but I'm we're telling you, like, you can't sleep on Suikoden, so you get your hands on it, or however you're gonna play it.
Yeah. I'll be
It's
saying
a really done game.
Suikoden on Saturn and PlayStation. That's OG PlayStation, right? First PlayStation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, PS. Yep.
Yeah, the PS one, one of the OG. Basically, you guys got to understand, PlayStation 1 really brought in a lot of JRPGs here in the States
Oh
because,
yeah.
like he said, I mean, Suikoden's one of them, but there are so many good games out there people slept on. Grandia 1, Xenogears, Final Fantasy Tactics, Legend of Dragoon, Vagrant Story. What? Oh crap! There's another one that.
Wild Arms.
Oh, see that.
Oh yeah, I played
Oh,
Wild Arms
see, I mean,
and Legend of Dragoon. Yep,
oh
Breath of
I
Fire.
yeah.
remember that.
So
Breath
I
of
mean,
Fire would be a big one too.
see, there's so many games that people slept on, and they also carried over to PlayStation 2. Man, Grandia 3, Grandia
Hmm.
Extreme. They remade Grandia 2 from the Dreamcast and brought it over to the PlayStation 2. And Grandia 2 is a fool.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
see,
go
it,
ahead,
it's
Jesse.
almost sad to see, like I said, just because of that Kickstarter, and it's going back to those older graphics but more modern.
Mm.
It's sad to see um, all those games being slept on, and people missing out. Like, if you think about it, um, the money they raised, obviously it was like a fan base that exists but is in the dark. So think about it. So it's the same thing Jay was saying. You got the Breath of Fire games, you got the Wild Arms, you got the Tale series, you got the Xenosaga series, Xenogears.
Oh, yes,
Like,
yes,
these are all like great, beautiful games. But if you don't have any interest, or any of these games pique your interest to even try, you're really missing out. And it's sad because nowadays you don't see sticking to those styles, but there's a lot of people who want that to come back. Even the art, like they don't care that it's older because
Mm-hmm.
it's you see remasters now, like Secret of Mana. I have the remastered Switch version. It's beautiful to look at, and obviously it plays more smooth and everything else because I mean, it's a stronger system. You can do more and whatnot. But I was playing Super Nintendo today. I was playing Secret of Mana, and it was like this game is like great, and it's a Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like
And
people, it's sad because a lot of people um, missed out. Not that they missed out, but as generations go on, you have different, just like life and movies and TV and what you believe, what you don't believe.
right.
It's like generational gaps, but there's still such a huge fan base for like the older stuff, but you're not going to see it. And they really put a lot of like, not that developers or anything don't put love, sweat, or tears in newer games, but like Jay said earlier, and I agree, it's like the story. Like they really, really like put their heart and soul in those stories. Because
All
if
right,
you don't have a good story with those, I, you kind of just you can't bank on much more.
Yeah, you're like dead in the water, right? It has to be that compelling story that's gonna get you connected. I do want to say, and Javi, you just made mention that Suikoden is on Saturn, on PlayStation, and on Windows. Um, I
can't
also
give
got to give some credit to where credit is due. If you guys are watching the stream, if you catch this whether live or on a replay, if you're looking at the layout, the chat is from our Discord, the DFG family. So if you go hit us up there, you can chat through there as well. And the work of art, the two pieces of art that are on there, that was my daughter who drew those. And I just snatched it like from her book. I said, "Hey, could I just borrow these?" And added them onto the overlay today. And she's got some serious talent. So if you guys haven't seen the video or not watching it, she has like a night angel um on top, and on the bottom is just like the head of a dragon. And those are in full color and everything in the original drawings, but obviously when I scanned them and uploaded them, I had to rework them a bit so that they looked proper on the overlay. But I wanted to give a shout out to my daughter and her providing that fan art. And you guys who are listening to this that are part of the DFG community, or chatting with me on a constant basis, you got some art, I'll throw it up on here. So I'm talking to you, Paco and Nate. If you're listening, come with the art and I'll put it up. I told you I would do it, and my daughter beat you to it. So I don't know
y'all
what
see.
you're gonna bring, but it looks. If you look at it, I don't know if you guys are looking at it or not, but it's serious. She can draw. Like I was having a conversation with her, that father daughter conversation, and projecting into her future and saying, "Listen, just get through high school. If you can just bust out high school, I'll get you into like a specialized, graphic design school. You don't even have to go to college. Well, let's get
Brother,
you into some specialized school and let's get you set, because
hold
that's
on,
how
hold
good she is."
hold on, brother. You like, hey, go ahead, baby, take all these classes so I can get the house to myself. That's what you just
Hey,
said.
you know what? One way or another.
Like,
Hey,
I will
eventually you're gonna
I
be
will
there. Trust me, when you get there, you're gonna do the same thing.
I will say this. Um, a side note before we go back to the RPGs, but
Yeah.
uh, designing emotes and overlays for content creators is a triple digit business if you do it right.
Yep. Yep.
There
Yep.
are people out there who make a killing for good reason,
Mm-hmm.
but it's it's content creators are always looking for new art, new ways to spruce up anything,
Yeah.
emotes, overlays, sounds, anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's out there. I told her, I said, not just the field of just graphic designer, but engineering. I mean, you can just take it anywhere. I tell you, literally, you can be at home, on your computer and working for yourself. That's just the times that we live in and the flexibility that you'll have with that. So it's all good. Henyo, you've been quiet, man. I want to let you jump in here if you have something to say, man.
No, it's really interesting how the love that they have for the RPGs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain genres that I just I really dive into. RPGs, I've always respected. I've never toss them to the side and go away with the. It's always intrigued me. I just never really gotten into it. But I've had my share of RPGs. I've loved. I actually have on Steam on my wish list Baldur's Gate. I would love to continue that whole that whole storyline. I forgot the name of it, but it's something like Winter Nights or uh, Neverwind or something like that.
Neverwinter.
Neverwinter. I mean, they had expansions galore, on that series.
Well, if you have Game Pass, Baldur's Gate is on there.
It's on the. I'm a PC guy. I like to play my RPGs on the PC.
Yeah.
So still actually on Ultimate. Yeah, that's right. I got.
It should still be on PC for Game Pass.
Yeah, regardless, there's always a respect for those RPGs. I've always, enjoyed the way, I really like Diablo. I know it's not, you can't really form a cast of team, but, it's like the intricacies of it, what you can put on, mix matching your armor and weaponry and stuff like that. And then if you got a great storyline, total respect.
Yeah, so Diablo would be your hack and slash action RPG if you wanted to.
Yeah, and that's and that's why I kind of gravitated to that gameplay because I'm a little bit more faster gameplay type of guy. I like first person shooters and moving objects and stuff like that. So to lay back and absorb a storyline really isn't my cup of tea. I like
Unless it's more of like a linear story, like something like a Telltale game, or what was the one that you was playing, the Plague's Tale, which is just carry you from point A to point B, and that's another thing. Like, what do you guys think? Like, you were just talking about, the tragedy, if we can use that word, of these games just being lost on this generation, because this generation is about the FPS, first person shooters. You have the Twitch games where it's all, pew pew pew, and you die and hit reset 2 minutes later and you're back into it and you just rinse, wash, repeat. Do you think that these games can have a resurgence in an ADHD society?
Okay, can I?
I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. You guys can argue about it. Make your points.
I don't want to argue. I was going to say there will never ever not be a place without these games. Only because I don't care who you say, who you are, what you do. RPGs is unlike any experience you can play, and that's why they've been with every system upgrade, whatever the system is. It's always been an RPG from beginning to end, and it won't stop.
Yeah, I agree with you. Javi's talking about Skyrim, Dragon Age, Dragon Age 2, Children of Mana on the DS.
Yeah. Well, you got to think about it. They're like that genre is the pioneer of games. If you really think about it, because I mean, even Zelda on the NES, right? Remember the original Zelda?
Mm-hmm.
How good that was, and it was like, if you take that game and then compare it to, even go as far as Diablo, like that game had an evolution, and that on the NES you were basically, you were going to different dungeons and fighting the boss, but it was almost like you were dungeon crawling.
Mm-hmm.
So you're more thinking about a game like Gauntlet.
Yeah. So Gauntlet Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That evolved from Gauntlet with what was it on 64? Was Gauntlet Legends after the arcade?
Yes, you are
Yeah.
correct.
So, I mean, you saw the evolution of Gauntlet. Just that's what I mean. Like somewhere in every game you play to this day, even there's some sport RPG games. I mean,
That's weird.
it's a little bit of a pioneer in there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
somebody jumped in there saying that's weird.
What's weird?
No, somebody said something about that's weird. I thought that's what I heard.
I think it was Hino.
Oh, Henyo, you said something about that's weird.
No, it must have been background noise.
Oh, okay. But
Sure.
Javi, my brother right now, he's like in the chat and he's listing these games and he's going through his stepdaughter's. I guess he has like a crate. And he's like Dragon Siege, Dragon Quest. He's like, wish I could put a pic of a post in these bin of games that she has. Gauntlet and Fable are his favorite games. I've never played Fable, and I've heard Fable is, again, one of those games that you have to play.
It's very good.
Okay, look, y'all.
Maybe not the third one, but the first two are very good.
Yeah, okay. I'm tired of Saturn not getting no love here. So Saturn's about to get some love real quick. Saturn has some of the greatest RPGs of all time that have been slept on. Number one is Dragon Force. If you can afford a copy of Dragon Force at this day and age and afford a Sega Saturn to play it, one of the greatest tactical RPGs of all time, and you don't even know it. Another one is Shining a Holy Ark. It is a FPS RPG and the only one of its kind that I've ever played in my life. Trust me, look it up. And trust me, try to afford a copy of it.
Yeah, you know that Dragon Force is it plays well. Let me rephrase that. It's I believe for the DS, Nights in a Nightmare. It might even be for PSP as well. That's how that battle system works. Is exactly like Dragon Force's.
So Sleek, since you know about this, when I owned my Saturn, back when the Saturn came out in the 90s,
yep,
I owned back-to-back 7 copies of Dragon Force in the 90s.
Why?
I owned 3 copies of Magic Knight Rayearth, which is probably one of the greatest action RPGs.
Why? Were you scalping them or something?
Dude, I had a copy of Burning. If anybody's ever played a game called Burning Rangers, I had that too.
Yeah, that sounds like an STD. It's Burning Rangers. I don't know. I want to play that.
I'll tell you right now, to get Dragon Force on the Sega Saturn, it's about $250 for a physical copy.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
So let me jump in here. Hold on, because he just another light bulb moment for me, and I have to ask this. You're talking about games that now to get on system, these games are locked on systems, right? So to get the system, to get the hardware, and get the physical copy, because that's how you're gonna find it. What do you guys think about emulation and moving forward? Like, look at what Xbox is doing with backwards compatibility, PlayStation following suit. What about seeing these games being unlocked from these systems? Are you guys with it, or does the experience have to be on these systems?
So for me, it's gonna go. There's pros and cons to both, obviously. I could tell you. You said earlier about a resurgence potentially in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Might not still catch the attention of some folks because of stories, or they might be like, "Oh, the graphics," like they miss like the point of it. But
Right.
if these companies and or whoever owns these specific IPs, if they were to do something like a Game Pass or Netflix or whatnot, I would hands down pay for every single one to be able to just play the game at any moment. So that would be like a pro in regards to that, doing that type of streaming or a type of service. But the con would be just like the nostalgia of so for an NES. Though I read that this is a myth, but I could be wrong. My opinion, I thought blowing in the cartridge would make it work. So I have Final
That's an
Fantasy.
urban myth.
Yeah, I have Final Fantasy, and I'd be sitting there blowing it to make sure it works. But obviously, we all know that it's just if the pin's damaged, I mean, it
Right.
is what it is. It's
Well,
the pin's damaged. But emulation is such a gray area. If they know it goes on, it'd be a shame to lose it. But companies, whether they believe it or not, would be able to profit off of just like somehow, like I said, like a streaming service like
Yeah.
Game Pass or
Like a
Spotify.
subscription service, right?
Yeah, I mean, I bet that they would see less. Maybe I don't know. It's a toss up, but they may be able to see less of people downloading these games to play them illegally, where it's already a gray area, right? So the
Mhm.
emulation portion isn't illegal. It's the IP of the games that you're
Right.
ripping.
Right.
I'm no lawyer or anything, so I'm not. I may have it backwards, but I know that it's just murky waters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
It's
it's
frowned upon, but it's also okay.
yeah.
It's interesting. So you don't really.
It's almost like the indie musician that gives away his music just for the sake of gathering a crowd that will pay attention more to his music.
Yeah, and Henyo, speak to that. I mean, about because you're PC and PC, I mean, is where all these games are built. Going right back to the origin of things. What you know, how did the PC crowd or you as a PC guy see emulation? If you had accessibility or if like Sleek was just saying, a subscription service, like what would have to be the qualifying factors to go either one way or another?
I don't think there is any like bond to to say, oh, this we can't go there. Obviously, I wish I could emulate half of the 3/4 of the games that are out there. Especially old school. It's not like I said, I have to wait for games to either appear on Game Pass or order them through Steam. So I would have to go into a different realm to go grab them. So with that said, you don't want to cross the line by disrespecting that genre. And I think when you start emulating, you're kind of crossing that line. It's like, all right, am I gonna really emulate, run it emulation style, and have the game and enjoy it? Who cares? No one's watching me play these old games anyway. Not unless I start streaming. Then you really get into that dark, murky, oh, he's suspect. So emulation, I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think it could bring bring back a game not to life, but kind of extend the legacy of it. But at the same token, the developer and the maker of the game doesn't get nothing out of it.
Right.
Right. You're kind of screwing them over in a way. So there's some that are just like, hey, yeah, I got it emulated. I run it, big deal, no big deal. And then there's just people that are like, you know what, I'll wait for it to go on sale and I'll buy it legitimately. And I know that if whatever I do with this game is a legitimate game.
Right. Like I look at, like I mentioned Blue Point earlier in the podcast and what they've done with Demon Souls. And let me tell you, that game looks fire on that PlayStation 5. It looks sick. And not only that, but Shadow of the Colossus was something they worked on as well.
I've been wanting to play that one so bad. It's sitting there on my shelf.
So, we were again, mentioning the whole, how do you expose these older games? And those two games I mentioned are not nearly as old as the games that we're talking about. When you're talking about SNES, NES, Saturn, Dreamcast, PlayStation, the original. When you talk about much older games. So I agree with you that thin line. And also, I admire people like Sleek who have the hardware. I think about all the systems that I bought and owned and I don't have anymore. I wish I had those systems. I wish I had my old Nintendo, my old Super Nintendo, my my Sega Saturn, my I wish I had these systems and I still had the hardware, and the games, but I don't, you know. And when I do see people posting like, their tour of their collection in their room, like I could imagine. I think the first thing I want to do when I meet Sleek is I want to go to his game room. I want to see like all these hard copies of all his games because it's just, I don't know, it's just like it's like going into Toys R Us, which doesn't exist no more. But when you go into Toys R Us and you're surrounded by all those toys and games and gadgets, it's beyond happiness. It just does something to you.
There's an appreciation level when you have
Exactly.
the hardware. It's like I brought up just recently, like in the middle of the summer, I brought up my Dreamcast from storage, and like I was like, it was like the first time that I actually looked at it from like the last time I really put it in, which was like over a decade ago.
Mm.
And like I took it out and I'm like, man, I didn't even bother wiping this down. I ain't clean it, and as I'm wiping it down and I'm like, damn, I want these memory cards should be still good. Let me put a little battery in it. And I started putting a battery and I'm like, oh man, do I still got the connector for the TV? And all of a sudden it was like, let me go downstairs and go get ready to rumble and try to boot that up on another.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just like you start reliving that legacy moment that like when you first bought that game, you're like, yo, this game is awesome. And I think if you do that with an emulator, it's just not the same feeling.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, at least for me, I agree with you there, and I'm sure that Sleek and Jay agree. It's not the same to actually, when you have the hardware, when you have the controller that the game was designed for. Like, I couldn't stand the N64 controller. Like, it just couldn't. I don't know what they would think about there. But when you played games with it that was designed for that controller, you was like, oh, now I know why this is designed this way and it's supposed to work this way. And it's just, I don't know, it's just that connection that you don't get through emulation. What was that?
You start to get an appreciation
Yeah.
for why they design things a certain way.
Yeah. It's part of the hobby that we have, the love for gaming that we have. It's not just the game itself. It's the process that goes into the design of the box, the design of the game, the developers, the backstories, everything that's in there is gaming, and it's not on at least for us here, I would say for all of us, it's what gives us that deep appreciation. There's nothing we can geek out about it, like not just JRPGs and RPGs, but about maybe any genre and maybe not even the genres. We can talk about the industry, we can talk about the history, we can talk about documentaries we've seen, companies, etc., and just go on and on. But what's Dusty saying in the chat? He says Sleek is like Metal Jesus from YouTube. You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Metal Jesus, yeah.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I will say this as well about the Dreamcast is it was ahead of its time.
Oh yeah.
In regards of what it was trying to do and what it was trying to accomplish. It's a shame that it abruptly ended.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Shenmue was released on the Dreamcast first, I believe. I could be wrong.
You are correct.
Yeah, and then they have my favorite, well, not my favorite, sorry, I should say, top there is like they had Evolution for an RPG. They had Dark will appreciate this, Grandia.
Grandia. That's where I played it on the Dreamcast.
Guys of Arcadia.
Grandia 2.
Time Stalkers.
Yes.
Grandia 2.
Yes, sir.
And it's just, I honestly wish the Dreamcast would make a resurgence.
Man, okay. See, I can run on all day with the Dreamcast,
and we ain't gonna let you.
like my man Sleek was saying, what people don't understand, Dreamcast was a very pinnacle, like a huge pinnacle in gaming happened at the Dreamcast, and people don't even realize it because it happened. It was online and it was sports.
Mm-hmm.
Dreamcast was the pinnacle of all that, and then every other system follow suit. But going back to the JRPGs, look, guys, it is a huge world out here. And JRPGs, whether it's a JRPG, whether it's an RPG, a lot of these series carry a long and strong history. No pun intended. Don't take that the wrong way. And and it's really going for what you want to play. It don't matter. You can name a system. I can give you a game.
Mm.
It don't matter. I can give it to you whether in sports.
You fall out.
And
Yeah, you fell out there, Jay. You just like, I can give it to you in sports, and then it was like you passed out or something.
can you hear? Did you say I passed out? Wow.
Yeah, you forgot to breathe, man. You got too excited there, brother.
It's like
Your brother went into a seizure or something. He had like flashbacks of all these games.
Wow. Hey, man, look, man. That's good.
Oh,
If
man.
anybody has a NES emulator, please go play Tecmo World Cup Soccer. Known as Captain Tsubasa.
His brother was talking to me about that game like before we started.
Captain Tsubasa is the joint, dude. Y'all just gotta understand.
Captain Tsubasa.
I got it. I've been playing it.
Yeah.
Oh man, Captain Tsubasa is like an experience where you go, did they really make games like this?
Mm.
And why haven't I played them? That's the
Yeah.
experience you get.
Yeah, I mean it's so many games, so little time, right? And it's just, I mean, I'm in a place where I'm glad I'm having this conversation. I'm glad you jumped on, Sleek. You actually caught me by surprise because I just asked, and I was, when I ask, I'm ready for the no's. It's like in sales, they teach you just keep asking because out of the 99, one person's gonna say yes. That'll be the 100 person, and then hey, there you go. And you jumped on here, and I'm so glad you're here because you're bringing something to us, to me personally. I'll be selfish that yeah, I've had my exposure growing up and even now as an adult, but the appreciation, like that fire kindled again to really think about these games, think about this genre, and to really look for like those gems, look for those games that are gonna be engaging, because that's what's missing, I think, in a lot of games today. Again, you have games that are rinse, wash, repeat, games that are Twitch shooters, FPS games, year after year after year, you get the same game. It's no-brainers, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those games, but I'm more mature, and I would love to sit with something, get captivated and gripped by something, and want to come back to that and that alone. And I think that there's no other genre but the role-playing genre, at least in my experience, that has done that for me. And this conversation has started that up. What does Dusty say? Dusty say he'll buy one right now. I think he's talking about like a console or something. Javi says, I got laughed at from some coworkers who didn't believe me when I said Dreamcast had a fishing game with the rod controller.
You talking Sega Bass Sport Fishing? Man, that game was so dope. I don't understand how. Man,
What was
Sega
that?
Sport Bass Fishing was that joint. Oh,
Yeah, I got
God.
that accessory. It really was immersive. It was perfectly crafted accessory. It worked.
Oh man, when you get that when the speaker come on, it do be like fish.
And people, and for you to think about how far ahead of its time, this is before Wii remotes. We're talking about peripherals here that were designed for the Sega Dreamcast, that did these things, that immersed you in these games. It's just, gaming has come a long, long, long way, guys. A long way. Guys, we are about an hour and a half, believe it or not, into this already. And Sleek, I'm just gonna ask you this question. Two more questions, okay?
Yep.
Before I let you go. Number one, will you come back and we can talk some more about this. Give you some time now that you know how we kind of flow. And again, you're amongst family, but we would love to have you back to just chat it up with us at your convenience, because I know you're a man that's very busy and always working on something. So that's the official invitation.
Oh, I gladly accept.
All right, all
I'll,
right.
we can hash out details and whatnot. Um, you know how to get a hold of me. I know how to
Oh,
get a hold of you, so it will work.
Yeah, yeah,
this
and,
brother
and
said, nah, Sleep was like, call my agent, man.
yeah, no, I like. I've always appreciated Sleek's real cool and calm demeanor. I remember when I was on Mixer and playing PUBG, and we got featured like back to back because somehow I made it like to the last 10 survivors or whatever. And I remember him in the chat, he was modding and he was like, stay focused, Anton, stay focused, while the channel was like flooding with viewers. And I was just like, what in the world am I doing? I got super hype. And he was like, calm down, stay focused, play the game. I'll handle the chat. I'll handle it. I'll just don't worry about it. And I'll never forget that. But Sleek's always been, level headed, real cool. But I did get that little excitement there when he's talking about these JRPGs. So we definitely want him to come back and talk some more about that. My second question, I'll leave it open to you guys as well. So, do you think that any of these next gen consoles are going to turn their attention even more so to this genre in this generation?
I tell you what, I know that NJ, I don't know if you saw this or you're well aware of it as well, but Level 5, who makes um some pretty good games that I find interested in regards to RPGs. So you're looking at uh like not all childish games, but they made Yokai Watch. Uh, they made they have some other big names out there. I think Professor Layton, Dragon Quest, and they had their hands in Dark Cloud, Inazuma 11. I could go on and on.
Oh, wow. You naming some good titles for me. Okay.
Yeah, and I they're like in the talk of falling out kind of. They're in trouble. So I was kind of hoping that they would maybe get bought, potentially rescued by Microsoft, because I know Microsoft has been talking to get more of these games in their in their library and for their system, because
That'll be
it's not that heavy in these types of RPGs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've
yeah.
been approaching larger and smaller studios in Japan to be like, hey, maybe you come make some games for us or port some games for us and whatnot. I know that Level 5 had a game for Xbox at one point called True Fantasy Live online, I believe. And at this point, it's like, why don't you just try to rescue Level 5? It was an MMORPG for the Xbox.
You're talking
And it's
OG.
published by the Microsoft Corporation. So just rescue Level 5 and get all their games in your library. That's how I feel. I just think they should do that. Or rescue anyone that's in trouble, because you can see them buying up everyone. Um, Bethesda. Um, and I know they were saying, Phil Spencer, I think, said it in the last interview he did, but he's like, I'm not going to take away the games from the other consoles for exclusivity, like whatever. Trying to say that word, it's a tongue twister, but not take them away just for Xbox, but as long as they make that same game better on the Xbox
Mm.
and faster. And like that's what he's saying. He just wants it to be, to really push the limits of what they made with the Xbox, right?
Yeah.
Not so much take away the opportunity for, because he believes in uniting gamers over like what console you have. So like I said, I want everyone to be able to play the game. I just want it to be better
Yeah.
on our equipment,
Right.
our hardware.
Right. That's what you get when you have someone at the helm who's a gamer, you know, and not, not a corporate guy first. He's a gamer first, and he understands the thinking, the thought process of the gamer. And yeah, I appreciate everything that Phil Spencer has done and continues to do with the team over at Xbox. And I'm so glad because he's not into the whole console war fanboy stuff. You guys know here, I've said it. I prefer Xbox. That's just because where my family's at, where most of my friends are at, and what I kind of grew up with as far as like into my adult life. But I got my PlayStation, I got my Switch, I got my PC. And if the games are available on all those platforms, it just gives me the opportunity and the flexibility to play where I want, whenever I want. And that's just a beautiful thing. So let's put the fanboy stuff behind us and the console wars, because I don't think Phil Spencer even crosses his mind anymore. But any you guys, Jay, you want to say anything? Henyo, you want to say anything as to that point? As far as what about the rumors of Sega and maybe Microsoft swooping in?
Okay,
Well,
see,
I don't want to
they've
open
been
up a
trying to
can of
buy
worms.
Sega for
We're
a
trying to
while.
wrap it up.
They've been trying to buy Sega for a couple times, but
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead, Jay.
okay, see, I'm a avid. I'm the retro guy, and I love it. They got, especially in Sony. I'm gonna say this to you first, Sony. You guys got so many games that you can redo and make blockbusters out of right now. You're sitting on a gold mine. Go redo Legend of Dragoon and put it on the PlayStation 5. Oh dear Jesus Lord. Do Dark Cloud again. Oh, see, come on now. I mean,
Don't pass out.
y'all got so many games y'all can throw out there that it just make my heart it hurt. But then, like Sleek was saying though, look, Sega's been my baby for many years. I've been ride or die with Sega since the Master System. And even when we screwed ourselves and shot ourselves in the foot, dug an old grave with a 32X and a Saturn kind of basically dropping them at the same time, which is the dumbest thing in the world for them to do, which is effectively what killed Sega. And then Dreamcast being on Windows 98, which effectively made the Dreamcast the most rippable system known to mankind. But somebody buy Sega, do them right, do them justice. And Microsoft, if you do, you're sitting on the gold mine. All you got to do is get the right games out there. That's all you got to do. Do Fantasy Star, not just Fantasy Star Online. I'm talking about go back to the roots of Fantasy Star.
Yeah, Fantasy Star will be something that if that gets remade, I definitely will go back to that, because that's one of my childhood games. I definitely would go back in a heartbeat. But Henyo, anything you got to say as we are coming to the close here, guys? Thank you for hanging out and being here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that little bell icon, leave a comment, and share this out. Henyo, talk to us.
To me, it's what is trending, what is popular, what are the developers are going to put into it, right? They want to make a game that they know is going to get recognition. If and this can't be answered tonight, but if the community, if the people demand a new RPG style game that could fulfill the needs of everyone and make it popular, right? So, and what I mean by popular, like it's like up there with the latest games, you could see you just need one game that could spark the genre again, right? Right now it's kind of in the backseat. You have a lot of the people who are cult players, and they go back to their old reliable gaming on RPG. But if you could get that one game, that one good RPG game to spark everything up again, you could start seeing more games being developed at the RPG level. Because right now, everything's dominated by, GTA, sporting a game, or Call of Duty, a first-person shooter. So the community needs a good RPG game just to kind of ignite that spark, and from there the developers will continue to try to continue that trend, and you'll see a big influx of more gaming. I mean, I know they're out there. I'm not saying that they don't exist, that they're not making RPG games, but to be on the forefront, I just don't see it. I don't see when I open up Twitch, I'm not seeing someone playing an RPG game to with hundreds of followers and viewings. So that's just something I'm putting out there. Read it as you want, but if something's gonna happen with RPG, it needs a good spark.
Yeah. I think that's where it's not going to be until 2021, which obviously is not that far off. Actually, I think it's 2022. I got to double check, but Ayuden is it will have the potential per se because it's going to be polished, right? It's going to be running on the PS5, the Switch, the X, PC. So, like I said, you guys give Suikoden an opportunity, dig into it. If it's for you, it's for you. If not, it is what it is. But you just see the story of that game and how the characters develop and how things go. That's what they're gonna be bringing back to, like I said, Ayuden, but with more modern stuff, more customization, but with that old school feel. So it's like polished. I mean, being a big fan of Octopath, or if you enjoyed playing Octopath, it's now you're mixing two games together. It's gonna be. I think it can start a resurgence if you get it in the right hands of the right people and you can try to sell it on people. But you're gonna like what you like, so.
Yeah, it's almost like the community needs to advertise the genre again. Bring it to the forefront. Hey, look what's happening here. Right now the forefront is being consumed by first person shooters and sport, and it could probably use a reignition.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one person on Twitch that I follow who streams midday or late afternoon, but he plays all RPGs, whether it be tactical strategy. He plays a lot of like Fire Emblem, Shining Force, which you guys obviously know.
Yeah.
He plays retro old school RPGs, and he's usually got a good turnout. And
they're out there. They're
Yeah.
I mean, looking at I'm on Twitch right now, and I'm looking across the board here, and there's plenty of people playing
Oh yeah.
RPG style games, but the viewerships,
Yeah.
the eyeballs, it needs to be brought to the forefront. Hey, this is what we have. Hey, showcase the type of gameplay that's the possibility. Get it in front of eyeballs and make people want to like get back into RPG. To me, an RPG just needs about 5 characters, good leveling boards, and a 3/4 view. That's what I really consider RPG. I'm not so much into this, first person perspective of an RPG style, but something overhead, that's the old school RPG that I love and that would suck me back into playing that type of game.
Yeah.
Hey,
And you know what? And I'm sorry to cut you off, Jay. And I think that we can build again for another session. And I'm not trying to cut us off because you guys are talking about a lot of things that are just sparking off. But I'm going to leave you guys with this. We're going to shut it down. What you just said, what would be the ideal setting scenario for a resurgence of RPGs. And I'm talking about not just the exposure, not just the advertisement, but from the ground up, the building of that next RPG. What would be your approach? Because one of the challenges, again, I love Witcher 3. I've cheerled that game here for quite some time. I myself have put maybe 80 hours into that game, and I'm nowhere near done. And that's one of the challenges as well, where you have these games that are infinitely long. Can we change that format? Do we have to change that format in order to, get the exposure of this genre? Maybe make it episodic, where I can play a 10-hour chunk at a time and then come back and play the same game, but episode 2, episode 3, episode 4. Maybe
What
that's
Final
something to
Fantasy
think
VII's
about.
trying to do right now.
Yeah, I'll say this: if you want to make a resurgence, most companies need to sit back and follow the progress of Final Fantasy VII Remake, since Final Fantasy is a beloved RPG of over several generations, my generation and Sleep's.
Hmm.
And it is one of those games, if it doesn't make what it's supposed to make, if they make this game great, because if none of you have played the original Final Fantasy, and I mean Final Fantasy, I mean OG Final Fantasy 7, please go back and play it, and then go play remake, and lay your own assumption down. But the remake is a fantastic game, and all companies need to do is see what they did right, what they did wrong, capitalize, build, and snag.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But guys,
From my
go
from
ahead,
my
go
point,
ahead, Daniel.
I say it right here, Jay. In order to go to the next level, you have to go to the next level, brother. You got to raise the stakes in the game, and they need to do that.
Yeah, I
There you go.
agree. I'm in full agreement with every head in this party. I'm gonna give Javi in the chat the last word. He says, "Quick shout out to my wife on her birthday, who has discovered Sea of Thieves. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Sailing on the seas."
The 7 Seas. All right now.
Somewhere.
All right, guys. Appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you for being on. I don't know, guys. This is
I learned something, man.
this is
I
what
learned-
you learned. I have like 101 other questions and topics that I can talk about. And if I don't cut it off now, I'm gonna be in trouble because I have to get up in the wee hours tomorrow. My day is gonna be long. And like Jay says, go ahead, Jay. You might as just say it. What's your sleepy time
Really.
quote?
I ain't even feeling that way, but they're gonna try to force it.
we missed your cutoff cues last week, So I'm giving you an opportunity here, but if you don't feel like it, that's okay.
Look, guys, whether you want to retro game or be up in the current gen, just remember, it's your money, it's your time, it is your dime.
Mm-hmm.
And if companies ain't fulfilling what they need to do, tell them to go kiss your booty because you ain't got time for that.
Sure, you're right.
And as Jay would say, when he's gonna go lay in his coffin, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's how he starts it off. Dusty talking about we need merchandise. We need people first. But yeah, he's like, he wants an end time face mask. Hey, I'm working on some stuff. Y'all see how my daughter can draw? I told her, you think you can draw some faces of my friends? And she's like, yeah, that's easy. So hey, I might have some caricatures here of Henyo and Jay here shortly. But guys, we got to shut it down. Javi says, like I said before, with E3 attendance, celebrity have to get involved. Look what they're doing for D&D during quarantine. Yeah, well, we'll see, man. this topic can go on for a long time, but then we wouldn't have something to talk about the next time. So appreciate you guys being here. We're going to shut it down. As always, be good to one another, do good to one another, and keep your gaming and your life drama free. Later, people.
Peace.
See you later.
Hey, Sleek, we got to get up and talk some gaming sometime, man.
You let me know.
Sleek, like, wait, there's another man out here just as nerdy as me on RPG.
Now, you mentioned a lot of old school games there.
Oh, look, man.